Today I've got some spooky vintage Halloween decor ideas. I'm Brandy, and this is Making It My Own DIYs. Welcome. The first is going to be an owl apothecary jar, some pumpkin chalk paint, paint brushes, also black chalk paint, whatever type of ribbon you want to use. Got some velvet and then some Dollar Tree ribbon. Very simple. This is a postcard. I'll have it linked for you. It comes in a pack. I found this at the thrift store. It actually was some type of a breast pump. It's just a round container. And then this is some crinkly paper that I got. Very nice texture. You could always, crinkle up some paper yourself if you wanted to, but this is already done. So we're going to use this to cover from here to here. So you can measure it to get an idea of how much you're going to need. Y'all know how to cut stuff out, right? Get your measurements, cut it out. You don't want to do that white part because that's where the lid will fit back on. I'm just going to cut my piece out now, and I'm going to give myself a little wiggle room just in case. And then I'll just cut off what I don't use. Checking again to make sure it's correct. I don't want to waste this paper because I think I can get quite a few projects out of this piece. I'll sit it down and kind of roll it and see how much I'll need. You can also measure if you have a tape measure. You can do that. And then I'll trim it off, like I said, with the little excess. I'm looking for my back seam. I want to keep my seams all kind of together. Not that you're actually going to see the seam, on the container itself, but it's just how I like to do it. All right, so it's going to be perfect. I do have some overlap here. I'm going to put some glue down. This is just like a paper, craft paper, I guess, that's already on this little tube container. You can also just get like a box from Dollar Tree, and I know they have some gift boxes that are cylindrical like this as well. I'm going to glue it on, and then I have this extra that I can cut off because I didn't make any boo-boos. I didn't need it. Can save it for something else. Trimmy trim. And then this is what it's going to look like so far. I'm going to paint the bottom black. I am almost out of my rich black. Got to order some more. And I'll go all over the middle and then over the little lip, which makes the edges of the box, and in between where the paper is, so that there is none of that craft paper finish showing. And be sure that you let all of this dry, because we're going to be painting quite a bit in this video. Simple stuff though, nothing hard. I'll dry it, then I decided, okay, we're going to go ahead and do this too, so it will look good as well if the lid is off. Go down on the inside of that lip. I'm not going to paint the inside. I'm going to leave it silver. Dry that. We're going to work on the lid. So I'll take that pumpkin orange chalk paint and go over my fingers too, because you know how we do over here on this channel. And I'm going to dry it all. Once it's dried, I'm going to go on the inside of the lid with black. And I'll go up the sides. Also, we're going to put a surprise in here. So if anybody sneaks in your apothecary, aka candy jar, your hidden candy jar, they'll get a big surprise. So stay tuned so you can see that. Now, I just decided to cut mine out just to give it some dimension, a little more interest. I'm just going to be cutting this out. It's got some little decorative corners and pieces, and I wanted to leave those in and really let them show. So I'm just going to go and fussy cut around here. This isn't too hard to cut out though. It's pretty simple shapes. But like I said, leave yours completely like it is if you would like. If you're enjoying this video and you've seen other videos of mine that you like, please consider subscribing to the channel. I woke up this morning to a surprise of 80,000 subscribers. So still working on that goal of 100,000 by Halloween. It is possible if, but it's only possible for those of you who watch and decide that there's something here that's valuable to you. So only subscribe if you're enjoying the kind of things we do on this channel. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of my antiquing wax, but you can also use black with my little finger dauber and go all the way around here so there's no white edges and it gives a little more shadow and depth. Just like so. We're going to let that dry. And then because I don't particularly care for the glossy finish, I'm going to just dull it down a little bit by taking some of this matte Mod Podge and going over the top. Now, this is just my preference. I'm just using a very thin amount. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Hey, if you're here today for the first time, I want to say welcome to the channel. I want to say thank you for everybody who has supported me, and for whatever reason that you're here today, I'm glad to have you here. Now I'm going to take this dryer and I'm going to dry my Mod Podge. Again, if you have time and you're only doing one project, you can just let this dry while you go take a water break, right? Now I like that better. It's more of a satin finish. I like it. Now this came from Dollar Tree. I don't have to do anything to it, and that's always perfect. It's just a little candle stand. I peeled off my tag, and I'm going to use it to hold, yay, to hold up my little apothecary jar. I want it to be footed. Oh, it's so exciting when things work like that. So I'm going to add hot glue, and the bottom of this is rough textured. It's raw. It doesn't have any paint on it. So it's a good grippy surface, and the paper that is the bottom of this tube is also a nice grippy surface. So this should work fine for my intents and purposes. I'm going to reach in there and just press down to make sure it adheres nicely. And I like it. So now we're going to check our placement. The postcard or whatever print you use needs to be far enough down on here, but it's not interfering with the lip, okay? Mine is a little bit larger, so in order to kind of extend down the size and shape of this, I'm going to use some lace trim. This is just some trim that I thrifted years ago, and I still have plenty left. I'm going to take that with a little hot glue, starting in the back. You can see where that seam is, so that every bit of the seams are toward the back. And I'm going to add this down. Okay, so what if you don't have the postcards that I have? Well, you can always find a card that you really like, maybe even at Dollar Tree. They do have some cards that I think are 2 for $1 or they're 50 cents. You could get a card like that. You can use banner pieces. Y'all have seen me use banners in different products, in different projects as well. So you can use stuff like that. You could even use something you cut out of an old book or a magazine, whatever you want to use here. Just some type of a print with a vintage feel. Now once I'm back, I'm going to overlap and cut it off. And then I'm going to decide where I want to put my little piece. When I know where I want to have it and it's centered where I like it, I'll just kind of put my hand there to remind me when I lift it off where it needs to be glued down. I do recommend hot glue for this because you need something that's going to firmly hold that curve. And I've held that for quite a while, but I edited out all the time. It took me to hold it. But you see, it still wants to kind of lift where there's no glue. So you're going to have to hold that in place for a few minutes, or you can use rubber bands around it to hold it in place while that glue is setting up or drying. And I'm just showing you that you could use rubber bands. You could use a couple of them, you know, if you wanted to. Nothing too tight, it's not necessary. It's just holding it in place. We're not trying to bind it and make wrinkles in it, right? So here's the top, and here's our surprise. If somebody sneaks in our jar and tries to get our treats, they're going to see a spider in there. I just thought this was a cute idea. Y'all certainly don't have to do this. These are clips that I got from Dollar Tree. I think there's like 2 or 3 on a, I don't know, I've had it for a while. But I'm going to take the clip out. I'm going to cut the bottom part off so it'll lay fairly flat. Trim the legs down so that there's enough room for the top to fit on without the legs being in the way. And then I'll center that right in the lid and press it down until the glue sits. Easy enough to do. I can see room between his legs and the edge, which is going to make it perfect. Look at that. See how that orange pops when you take that lid off? Yes. Okay, so grab some of those ornaments that I know y'all have, because we all get them and sometimes don't know what to do with them. We are going to make a little mini topiary for the top. I'm going to use the tip of my glue gun, which is very hot, and hold it down right in the top center of that largest ornament. This is going to make a hole in there. If the hole is not big enough for the stick that you're going to use to go down in the center to stabilize everything, while it is still hot, you can take some type of a tool like I have. This is just like a utility knife, and just kind of cut off the soft pieces until you get it where these will sit on top of each other. Then I'm going to take the ball that's in the middle and do the same thing. I'm kind of finding the top by sitting it on the part where the hook would go. So this is going to be the stick I'm going to use. It's going to be perfect. I'll put this through. That's why you need 2 holes in this one. And then decide, we have to cut it because that's too much. I'm also going to cut the neck off of this carefully because I don't want there to be a gap. I want it to sit right on top of that black one, like so. I'm going to put quite a bit of glue on the inside of this one so that when I put it on I don't want to make a huge mess. When I put it on that stick, that glue will drip down onto the stick and hold those pieces together. You can use whatever colors you like. I'm using the classic orange and black just because I'm doing the vintage feel anyway. Here is some more of that lace trim, and we are going to make this into a little ruffled centerpiece. And this is going to help us glue down or have some more surface to glue down that little topiary that we just made. I'm using some cording and one of these big, now these particular plastic needles come with the Temu banners that you get, well, that I got. And so I save them all because, you never know what you could use them for, and they are perfect for this. They fit in that little, I don't know, I guess the seam piece, so they work great. I'm going to make a couple of knots in the end of this cord. And this is some type of a fabric cord. It's not paper.
Get ready for the ultimate Christmas crafting experience. Join Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs, Brandy from Making It My Own DIY, Kendra from Late Night Creations, and Kay and Trish from Crafting Cousins for Christmas Crafting Live. We will have 2 themes, Santa and Nativity. Purchase your kit now by clicking the link below. Deadline to order kits is Monday, September 2nd to ensure we can get yours to you in time for the party. Christmas Crafting Live, Saturday, September 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern.
You're going to find the rest of the information and links in the description box. So you can see here what I'm doing. I'm just sliding this down, sliding, and it is going to start gathering itself. It's going to gather. Some of you, this will not be news to. You will know if you've ever sewn. This is really easy to do. We're just making a ruffle, essentially. But this is going to be a tight enough ruffle that I can curl it up upon itself to make a beautiful little bottom. And it's going to be a decorative top for the jar lid. So cute. Now you can get it as tight as you want to. I want to make sure that it's going to fit on the top. I'm putting my needle back in so that I can sew the end of that. I'm going to that end. I'm going behind where the string is or where the cording is. I'm going to make a loop and then put the needle through the loop. And that's how you tie a knot. You can do that a few times to ensure that nothing is coming loose. It is like a lacy type material, so just be careful that you don't pull it too tight and tear that. So just a couple of knots will hold it, and then I'm going to cut that extra off and start shaping that pretty little piece. Perfect. And the more of that trim that you use, the fluffier that is going to be, the bigger it's going to be. I got some fuzz caught in my glue there. I'm going to put a good bit of glue, try to get this centered on the top, and then press it down into that glue. All right, so now I've just glued it in the center, nothing but glue holding it down. I'm going to grab a little bit of these thin pieces of ribbon and make this my own. That's what we do on this channel, right? I'm going to give you the inspiration and you're going to make it your own. Just take the idea and run with it. So with about 14 inches, I would think, maybe, of this ribbon, I am going to be adorning this pretty piece. You could use baker's twine. You don't have to do anything. If you want it just like that, you don't have to do anything at all. But I'm going to make a little bow, just 2 little bunny ears, wrap them around, tuck it in the hole, and pull the other side. When you do it this way, you can still adjust how big you want the bow to be or how small by just pulling on the tails. So it can be a big bow, it could be a big floppy bow, or it could just be something small. And I like the idea of being, almost a step down, so between the size of the top and the middle one. Then I started thinking, so do we cut the tails? No, let's use those tails for a little more decoration on the second piece. And what you can do is take a piece of the ribbon, either the orange or the black, tie it around the middle and the bottom ornament, and I'll just tie it in a knot or a double knot. Once I know that's where I want it, it's a double knot, of course, right? And then you can move around those pieces of ribbon to get them into the shape that you like. So it almost looks like painted stripes on there. And then you can just finish off your edges by snipping them at a little slant. And you can leave these long, you can cut them short. They can hang down the full length of your jar if you wanted to. But this is how mine looks. I like that. I think that's pretty. And is going to fit perfectly there. So now let's address the sides of the orange, right? It needs a little something. That lid is just too plain. It needs to be decorated. So we want to mimic what's going on this owl's hat. I'm going to make this look a little bit like a hat band. I'll take some velvet ribbon, just my choice, and then make sure that it's going to fit, and of course it does. We can still see the orange. If you didn't want to use the ribbon, you could always paint a black stripe if you wanted to, or whatever color you like. You could leave yours plain. I'm gonna go around. Just keep in mind, y'all, I always tell you this, and it is true. If it is something that you're making for yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter anybody else's opinion. It's your art. It came from you. It brings you joy in your home. It's exactly what it needs to be. So don't be afraid to start crafting. Just start. Just start. It is really that simple. Don't overcomplicate it. All right, so now I'm going to glue this down. I've just cut it at a slant to make it, that's because that's just what I wanted to do, but you can cut it straight across, of course. Now we got to have something in the middle. So this is the belly of a spider ring that I got from Dollar Tree. I love to use these little jewels. It's got black plastic around it, and it's that beautiful orange in the middle. Then I've got some tiny, kind of bronzy looking stars that are actually jewelry pieces. I got them at the thrift store. I got black, this gold, there's some iridescent white, some solid white. I have a variety of them. You can see them in that box beside me. All of the stuff in there has been thrifted. I'll put one on the top, just wherever I want to put these. I like the idea that they already looked kind of old and tarnished. Y'all look at my fingers. I was trying to get the stuff done, right? I was trying to get it done. I'm not going to take the time to get up and wash my hands when I'm in the flow of the energy, and it was going. So I put one in the middle of the bow. I'm going to put another one in the middle here, and I'm just using my jewelry pliers to help me because my fingers are too big to go in that space. So just use some pliers for that. Needle nose pliers will work if y'all have those. You can get cheap tools at Dollar Tree also if you just want to get a cheap tool set to keep with your stash. Now there were already stars on here, so I'm just going to go over those with these stars. Nice. I'm going to go on the edge of this picture where we have the little embellished corners. I know it's probably not very easy to see unless you're watching on the television. But this is how this little beauty is going to look. So what kind of candy are you going to be hiding in your apothecary jar this year? I think I'll have some Reese's peanut butter cups in mine, And maybe some bit of honey. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. This is how this one is going to look. I think it's very vintage inspired. Now, if you don't like the glossy look of the stand, feel free to go ahead and paint that a matte black or satin or whatever finish you like. You can glitter that if you want to. There's so many ways to take the inspiration and make it your own. And that's what I want you to do. If you want to do it just like mine, feel free to. But you got a lot of creativity that you can tap into right there in your own little body. The Halloween storybook is next. We're going to use plaster and rich black chalk paint. Antiquing wax, of course. A chippy brush, some regular brushes. This is just a box sign that I thrifted for whatever reason I wanted to use it, and it's perfect for this. Here's the measurements to give you an idea. Yes. And this little beastly print, I ordered these from Amazon. I will have that link down there for you. Here they are. We're going to use some more of this paper. Love it. You could use leather too. That would be pretty. Some faux leather from Dollar Tree maybe. There's two sides on here. One is glossy and one's matte. We're going to go with the matte. I think it looks a little more vintage. And there are little paper tabs on here that I am going to just sand off with my little sander. You could use scissors, whatever you want to do. Just for me, I'm going to take that off. Now I'm going to decide which way I want my book to go. Instead of tall like you normally see with the book stacks we make, I'm going to make this one kind of bigger horizontally. Right? It's going to be the shape of our YouTube box. I'll get my measurements. I will cut that off. So this book, you can see, is going to be this way. I thought, you know, if it was an actual book, it might be a cute kid's book. So yeah, the name is super cute, I think, for this. We're going to make it look like it's got pages in it, right? So, because this is already dark gray, if I leave a little bit of streakiness with just one coat of this plaster chalk paint, you can see brush lines in it, which makes it beginning to look like it's, you know, some pages. I'll go all the way around, and I just kind of overlapped also. I mean, why not? It's not going to matter if you make a mess. Once that is dry, I'll grab my good old chippy brush, some of that wax. You could also use like a black paint and just offload as much as you can, or you could use like a dark gray, probably something not as harsh as black, which is why I like this, because it does look a little aged too. And you know, books get kind of yellowed and kind of grungy when they're old. All right, so I'm going to load most of that wax into the bristles of the brush, and starting at one side and trying to make long solid sweeps. I do a little bit more than that, but if you're not sure of the amount of pressure you're using with your hand, you want to just go all the way from one side to the other and not go back and forth. I hope that makes sense. We're going to go here, and you see if you stop, you get like a darker spot. Keep going over it. You can turn your brush the other way to make lines, and now it looks a little more convincing that this might be book pages, right? If you have another technique you like to use for this, go ahead and do it your way. This is just how I like it for my projects. And it's very easy. Same thing here. And I'm liking adding a little more darkness right in the corners of our pages. Yes, I did air quotes. Pages. A little bit darker in the corners, okay? Now, we didn't have to do the other side because that's going to be in the inside of our book cover, so we're not worried about that. You can add as much as you want, as little as you want, whatever you feel like is convincing you that this might be a book, you know, so people might have to look twice. Yes, I like this. Especially if you like to use books in your decor, this would be really cute to add with those pieces. I'm just going to go over it and just dry that a little bit. I'm grabbing my black paint on a sponge brush and going all the way over the edges because you know the edges of paper cutouts are generally white, and I don't want you to be able to see that from any direction. You see the difference? So we're going to go over with black and fill that out. And if you want to just slightly overlap that onto your print, you can certainly do that. Now I'm getting my placement, and then I'm just going to stand that up where I know I'm going to add my glue. So when I lay it down, it is exactly where it needs to be. I am just adding that as close as I can to where the edges of the box will be, where it won't squish out. It's not a lot of glue. I don't want it squishing out and making a mess. I'll press that down, and now it's locked in place. So I can move this around now. I can flip it over and go ahead and continue out, pressing that in place. It's not going to be crooked. It's going to line up where it should be. If you want to add some down the seam, you can do that too, but it's not necessary. Fold it over and add it here. And I'm holding this paper kind of taut or tight, whichever way you want to say that. For whatever reason, you know, we all say things differently. It's okay though. We're all right. We're okay, y'all. If you're from the South, we're okay. If you're from the North and you say something, we're okay. If you're from England, we're okay. We're okay just like we are. All right, so I'm pressing this down. You're gonna let that glue dry. And look! Okay, to me that looks like a book. It looks like a book. Now I didn't have any stickers the color I wanted, but I have these little cut out paper pieces that have some dimension, but they're not stickers, but they're silver. We are going to paint these so that it matches what we have going on, or relatively close. It's kind of hard to match that color orange actually. I'm going to grab a little bit of, I think it's true orange. It's like a reddish orange color. Use it for our first coat on here. Because it's got a kind of a glossy finish and it's metallic, it's really best if you use a sponge, in my experience, and just dab it on and let it dry. I've just used some painter's tape there, doubled it over to hold it in place. And I'm trying to get kind of the same coverage on all of them. We'll dry those. I'm going to leave them on the paper though, because we're going to add another coat. And this time we're going to add a little more red to that orange to try to get closer to what's going on in the card. It's got like that, you know, that orange, you know what I'm talking about. Red orange, I guess is what we would call it when I was in elementary school. But there it is, and that's about as close as I'm going to get to it. So I'm going to take my sponge and pounce that all over the dried orange paint we had underneath. And to me, that's good enough. If you want to do something exactly, then feel free to do it exactly. I guess you could use paint pens on these, but for me, this is like the quickest, easiest way to do it. Make sure this is completely dry. And you see that there's, I've looked at where I want to place it. I'm going to add some glue on the bottom in a couple of places and on the cattails. And put him in place just to grab the placement, and then you can go around the edges and add more glue. After we make sure it's not sliding around, I've got it where I want it. I don't want it to slide. Then I'll take my letters and we're going to put Boo Crew on here, because to me, don't they look like a little trio of misfits? I think they do. This is what it's going to look like. I can see this as a kid's book, like a little flip-through kid's book. I'm going to add some hot glue, and I'm kind of smearing, I'm putting it on and kind of smearing it out, just like a small amount, because I don't want the glue to squish out. I'll do the first and last letters first, so I'll know exactly where I want the middle letter to be. I wanted this to be kind of arched, like the shape of the moon. And then here we go with this one. Same thing here when I put Crew on. I just took the first part out so you wouldn't have to watch me glue again. And I'll add that W down right there. I'm going to add a spider right in front of Prue. You don't have to do that. You can embellish your book any way you want. So you could leave it like this if you wanted to, but I want to give it just a bit more aging, so I'm going to use my alcohol sprays. The Angel Mist, y'all, got at the thrift store, so I have no idea where you get that. Somebody informed me that it's very difficult to find now. So you can just use whatever alcohol black paint that you have. It's like a black silvery color. I'm going to spray on that Angel Mist first, and it gives those little black silvery specks. And then I'm going to spray on the Walnut from Tim Holtz. And when it dries, it actually has like a grayish cast to it. I was expecting it to be darker, but you see it gives it like a grayish cast. Still, to me, gives it a convincing aged look. You can go over the back and the spine of your book too with that if you want to. But here is our Boo Crew book. So easy. You could do something similar with, like I said, a card from Dollar Tree. One of the little books, little fake books from Dollar Tree. Even grab a real book and do this. Totally up to you. Make it your own. My members mean the world to me. Thank you for what you do. The mini haunted house is next. All right, black chalk paint. You see a theme running here? Yes. Gonna have brushes. These are some stems from Temu. This is another one of the postcards from Temu. You will be seeing these. This is the Beware metal sign from Dollar Tree, coming in a 3-pack. This is a little box. It's a little craft box. I'm down to my last 2. There's a measurement for you. I'm going to be using some string lights. Yep, we're having lights in this one, y'all. I'm going to paint this entire box black. So the insides, the lip, the outside, everything is going to be a nice rich black. I need to make the position correct in the box for this card. So what I'm going to do is press it down, push it into the corner with my fingers, making sure it's flush on the top part where the moon is. And then I'm also going to use just a little scraper tool. You can use a credit card for this. And just push it down so I know exactly where I need the bend to be. I'll lift that out, turn it over, and then we're going to use some little blocks in there. This is going to hold it away from the back and give it a stable little place to stand. So here is where we're going to add our blocks. These are just some little building blocks. You can use the ones you get at Dollar Tree. I've used those all, so now I'm down to the colored ones. I'll use my miter shears to trim this down because one of them was a bit too large. This will cut through this entire piece, but I was afraid it was going to fly up and I didn't have goggles on, so I'm flip it over and cut it again. I love these things. If I can remember, I'm going to put these in my Amazon store because I'm an affiliate, so you can find some if you would like to get some. I will be gluing this down. I'm also going to glue it where it touches the card. I think I may have clipped that part out. Here and here on both of them. This is going to give us the perfect space in the back for the lights. So I only want the lights around the moon this time. I'm going to use a little bit of this soft pliable wire. You can get this type of wire from Dollar Tree, and it doesn't matter what color it is. I just happen to have silver. I'm going to make sure that I have enough that I can twist it back on itself to make a ring for our shape. I'll cut that off. Very easy to cut. And then holding it in place with my right hand, I'm going to twist it with my left hand. You have to be careful. This is very moldable. So I'm going to kind of move it around, lay it back down, make sure my shape is perfect. Then I will put this on a piece of scrap paper and put hot glue all over it. This is going to give us a form for our lights. Just really want to lock that in on that paper and with the glue. This is going to keep it from moving around. If you tried to wrap your lights around just the metal part, it's going to fall apart. It's just going to be a mess. So for me, using the glue works. If you have a wire that's stiffer, you could use that instead. Then I'm going to cut it out. Y'all, I know. We got 6 months to the Crafty Cruise. Please tell me if you have already committed to that and you are going to be meeting me in February, because I would love to know. If not and you want to join us, information's in the description box below. Now I'm going to use some of my good old double stick mounting tape, and I started off by putting this all across this piece, but it's not necessary because I didn't extend it all the way into the middle. I kept the majority of the lights on the outside. But definitely you need enough to cover it so that you can push your lights down into the tape. I'm going in a circle starting toward the top of where that wire is that's underneath. Just feeding that right along, pushing those little light beads straight down into that tape. This is such a good way to use lights in your projects. You don't want to use hot glue, you don't have to. But, you know, you can use glue on wire. It's not a problem, and I've used it on a billion things, and no problems, no worries. Okay. But, you know, you be safe, and you do your own thing. Now I'm going to continue around, and I'm just making that loop smaller and smaller, going toward the inside until I run out of lights. I'm going to leave about 3 or 4 inches hanging down because we have to be able to attach that light box, that little power box, down on top of those blue blocks. I'm going to add the glue and make sure I turned on the light so I could see exactly where I was putting it. Then I glued it on the bottom. Perfect. These lights do have 3 different speeds or 3 different settings. I'm also going to use a piece of the block that I cut to put right on the top. Hi, Mr. Kitty. Bye, Mr. Kitty. Okay. Now everything's hidden. Now we're ready to glue it down. Now do not glue down the yellow parts. I put glue on there initially. You don't need glue on the top. You're just going to have to pull it loose. You have to have a way to have access to your lights. And I knew that when I did it, but I still, you know, we do things. We do things, y'all. We mess up. I mess up so that you don't have to. Now I'm going to take these, and they are on wire. The center part is on wire, but the other parts are just plastic, and you can break them off. I am going to trim this down, the little pieces that are in the way or that I don't like, and decide how I want this to go on my box. Since the trees are up there by the moon, I thought what a cute little light box this would be to kind of add some more trees on the outside of the box and make it look like you're walking up a trail, right? Yes. All right, where are my moss lovers? Here we go. I'm going to put some of this moss down in here. If you want to put leaves or mini leaves, I have some mini leaves that I bought and I cannot find them. I've been going through my craft room, getting stuff ready to donate, and it is just, yeah. So I'm going to use this moss instead. Now, you can use Spanish moss. You can get your moss from Dollar Tree if you would like. You can get moss from Temu. This big bag of moss, I don't even remember where I got it from. I do not recall. I'm going to trim off the parts that are hanging out. I like to turn it over and shake it so that nothing is shedding once I get ready to use it. You can also use some hairspray to hold it in place. And then, even having that moss down there gives me a little more stability for the picks that I put in. So I'm just going to push those down into the moss. Now, the idea is for these to to give us a little more dimension. I don't want these trees to stand out. That's why they're black. That's why the background is black. It's almost adding something without you really paying attention to it, right? I'm adding a little extra glue to help hold it on the inside of the box. Be very skimpy with your glue or it's going to show up on the black, and you don't want it to look messy, right? You want to achieve a high-end look. That's what you want. Then I thought, how about a branch going across the path here, kind of obscuring the pumpkins just a little bit. Love it. I'm going to add that down in a few little places. You don't want to put too much in here that you can't fold down the top either, so keep that in mind. You don't want to fold your top down and can't get to your light switch. I'm going to take some Java chalk paint. It is a dark brown color. I'm going to use a sponge again because this is metal. And this technique works best for me when I'm using metal. You could also spray paint if you would like. But I want to show you that you can do it without using spray paint. I do recommend chalk paint when you're painting on metal or glass or anything like that. It stays a little better, less streakiness. Then I'm going to take some ivy green and I'm going to add that because I want this to kind of mimic what's going on in that moss we have on the bottom and to look kind of creepy and old and you know. So I'll dot this on too, but I'm not going to put this on as heavy. So I'm picking it up and holding it in my hand to help me put it down and not use such a heavy hand. And just dot this all over. You could do it in orange if you really wanted it to show. Look at that. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted. So be sure you let that dry. Now with the postcards, I got these little tabs and I thought they were like white foam tabs, but they're not. They're actually that same double stick tape that I use on my projects all the time. So I was pleasantly surprised when I peeled off the backing that these are clear. It makes it perfect. Because you can't see the white through the sign anywhere in case you put it in a spot where it would show up, you know. Okay, so now that is stuck down. I'm reaching in there. I'm turning on my lights. I am popping this back in the box. And there you have it. See the moon? Y'all recommended the moon when I did that light box with the haunted house from the other video. So I did it in this one for you. How do you like that? You can see through the windows and you can see the moon. So thanks for the suggestion for all of you who suggested it. I hope you like this little light box. I sure do. Space saver for sure. 3 little witches. Here is a velvet pumpkin pick from Dollar Tree. I got these last year. Another little postcard from the same set. Aren't they cute? This is a mirror from Dollar Tree. This is a spool, and I'm only going to use the spool, not the ribbon, as a sort of a shape to use to cut out my postcard. This I got at the thrift store not too awful long ago. Doesn't have the batteries or anything, doesn't have the candles on it. I want to find a gold paint that is similar to what we have in that mirror. This is way too light, so just use a darker color. That's why I didn't even put on there what it was. You just look at your mirror, look at your gold paint, and decide which one's going to be the best. I go back over this because this is more of a champagne color. I go back over this with a true gold. But I am distressing this to make it look like it is scruffy and old and kind of give it the look that is going on in the mirror. I want these to look like this piece is one solid piece. Again, a chippy brush. This is just a smaller one, so I can get around each of those little candelabras on the top or those little candle holders on the top and on the top flat surface. Easy enough, right? Y'all have done this before. If you watch my channel, you know exactly how to age in distress. I'm going to go over here because there's kind of some messy edges and I want to kind of, add a little more there. So I'm just adding it. It was good enough by itself though. So here we are with that spool, the perfect size. Now I can put that down. I'm going to use a marker and go over this beautiful little picture with these precious little girls and trace it out. I love when I can find something the same size. I just go around my craft room looking for stuff to try to match when I need to cut out something that is circular. And because I have so much stuff in here, it's fairly easy to do. Now I'm going to cut right over the line. You can cut to the inside of the line if you would like to, but you can push it down. You have a little bit of space between that frame and the mirror itself. I am going to use black chalk paint and just kind of put a line around the edge and let that dry in case there's any boo-boos with my cutting. You won't see the mirror underneath. It will look like a picture frame. I'll use some Mod Podge. It doesn't matter what Mod Podge type you use because we're not going to put it on top. It'll just be in the bottom, so I'm using the mat that I already had out. Now I'm going to push this down. Push it down to go between the mirror and the side of the frame. You can go over the top if you want to with your Mod Podge, but I'm fine with it just like it is for this project. I cut off a piece of a sponge brush that I used because I saved the little handles to put in the bottom so I didn't have to use so much glue. This is also going to give me a little stability to hold up my frame. This is a long skinny craft stick that I'm using here. And I am going to add a little hot glue to hold it in place while I get the black tape out. Black tape so I don't have to paint anything, and it also is going to give it the stability because there's going to be a gap in there between the back of the frame and the outer edge of the frame, and I need this to be secure enough that I can stand it up in that middle section. Now, you don't have to rush because that glue needs to start setting up before you hold it in there, or it will take forever and you will be sitting there forever. Now I'm going to stand it up in there with the craft stick right next to the wooden dowel that I already have in there. And I'm going to rest the edge of that frame right on top of it. I'm going to hold it in place for a little while, and like I said, I do edit this out. I turn it from side to side to make sure that it is straight. We're going to cut those pumpkins off. I'll make a loop in the bottom to give it a little something else to hold onto when we put the glue down into the little cups. Just gives more stability. I'm going to flood that with some glue, kind of wipe it on the sides a little bit as well, and kind of swirl the bottom of it in there when you put it in place. And then the same thing here on the other side. And hold those in place. Once the glue in the middle is dry, I'm going back over it with some black chalk paint and covering the bottom of the stick and any of that glue with the black chalk paint. And if you get any onto your gold, just wipe it off. I want to add a little bit of a leaf on each one of the pumpkins, so I'm taking some of this stem that I have and just cutting off the small sections. Could you tell I didn't have my glasses on? It should not take that long. I had lost my glasses, y'all. Right, lost my magnifier glasses, but I have them now. They're right beside me by the computer. And I'm not wearing them, so yeah. Now I'm going to add those on there. Look, y'all. Look at that. Ah, I hope you enjoy this project as much as I do. This is the most precious thing, and you could really leave this out all year if you wanted to. Here are those little beauties in all of their glory. I really do hope you consider subscribing to my channel. I promise you, I am going to do the best I can to bring you unique, more budget-friendly DIYs and all the encouragement you need to get the job done. I'm going to leave another video in this little rectangle. Check it out. I'll see you soon. Bye.